Good morning. It is Christy here. So I'm doing something different and I'm live streaming to my phone because I'm going to post it on IGTV and to Facebook. So we are just trying lots of new things this week and we will see how it goes. But what I want to talk today about is this concept of pulling weeds. So I know we've been really focused a lot on kind of this acute phase of just things changing and life being different and the real and true effects that that has on businesses, on communities, on individuals. And how do you, if you had big goals and you wanted to grow in 2020, maintain momentum in that while still being mindful of the reality that we live in today? And so that's really, been our focus. But part of that is how do you get in the right mental headspace so that you have mental clarity to be able to make the decisions that are going to set you up for success, both now during this acute time and in the future. So if you are watching live, say hi, post your name when you say hi so I can see who it is. But it just got me thinking about this concept. So when I was a kid, we had huge gardens and we had a huge garden in the front yard, huge garden in the backyard. And I hate gardening. I do not have a green thumb. It is not something I picked up from my childhood that I kept into adulthood. But one thing I remember is every summer we would get paid to pull weeds, right? Because everybody hates pulling weeds. We like, the idea of planting because it's like, oh, this is going to turn into something cool. It's going to turn into something new. It's going to turn into something that's going to have fruit, right? There's a result to it. And then we like picking the fruit, harvesting. But pulling weeds is just tedious. And yes, it looks cleaner, but there's no direct result sometimes, or feeling like there's a direct result to what you're going to get at the end. And I hated pulling weeds. I still hate pulling weeds. And so my parents would pay us, if I remember correctly, either 10 cents a weed or they would pay us $1 a row. So I think $1 a row or 10 cents a weed is way of a better deal, but harder to track. And then, right, then $1 a row. So we would sit down and we would get paid for pulling weeds. And I still hated it. It's just, it's hard sometimes. You're on your hands and knees. It's dirty. It's not fun, but it has to be done. Otherwise, the vegetables don't have the water and the right nutrients to be able to grow. So I've been thinking about this, right, in my business too, that there are things that we need to do as business owners that are a lot like pulling weeds, that are tedious. We don't like to do them. They're not directly related to our goals, but they're things that if we don't do them, will have an impact on our ability to succeed. And oftentimes we just don't take the time to do them. And here's what is the truth about this, though, is that when you're not pulling the weeds, they're taking up a lot of mental space. You're thinking about it. It's like your to-do list. Things aren't getting right. It's like they're heavy. It's like, I know I need to do it, but I'm not going to do it. So when I was in medical sales, this would be like expense reports. I could never get myself motivated to do expense reports. And every time I sat down to do my expense reports, sometimes I'd have like 2 months of expense reports and I do it once. And I'm like, hey, it's not that bad once I get started. But I would have much rather been out talking to customers, creating business plans, right? Brainstorming with my team, all of those things that felt like they had really like direct impact to my results versus sitting down and doing an expense report. But if I didn't do my expense reports, I didn't get reimbursed and I'd have a lot of money in expenses. So I know for me right now, there are a lot of weeds that I have in my business. So one of those is doing my taxes from last year. And yes, it's great, right? We've got an extension, so there's not that pressure to do it, but it's on my mind every single day. And now it's even more apparent because if I want to look, for example, at the payroll protection plan and utilizing that in my business, then yes, also like expenses, then I have to have my taxes done or at least some idea of what my P&L was from last year in order to be able to submit for that paperwork. So sometimes these things, when we don't do them, trip us up and stop us from taking action on the big things that we need to do that will ultimately create more success in our business. So I know for me, like paying bills, doing my taxes, doing paperwork, These are all things that are weeds that need to get done in order for me to be successful. They're the small to do things that really end up creating more resistance and obstacles to reaching our goals than we realize. That it's like if you don't take the weeds out, all of a sudden you're going to go in your garden, you're going to have done all of this hard work, you're going to have planted, and you go to harvest and it's not going to look very good. The fruits aren't going to be very good because you didn't take the time to pull the weeds. And so, what I want you to do today is I want you to think about, are there some weeds in your business that you need to be taking care of? And the reason why I feel like this is more timely now than maybe ever before is that because when stress levels are high, when you're already pulled in a lot of directions, when you're trying to pivot, and at the same time, simultaneously, you're probably experiencing this reality that all of these things are happening, but maybe your motivation isn't as high as it normally is. So, how can you help get your motivation higher? You can help get your motivation higher by taking the time to do things like pulling weeds, because all of these things, even though they're small things, they take up a huge amount of energy in the back of your mind. That's energy that instead of thinking about that on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, that you can be using that energy and momentum to move towards that short-term goal that we talked about, that 30-day project, that 30-day milestone, that 30-day goal, and hyper focus on there. There are things, for example, that you might want to do in your business that are harder to do if you haven't actually, hang on, I'm going to do something kind of crazy. Okay. If you haven't taken the time to pull these weeds. And so that's really what I want you to be thinking about is, can you be pulling these weeds in your business, and what weeds do you need to pull so that you have more time to do them? And sometimes it can feel really overwhelming, right? Like, okay, so I want to pull these weeds. My list of weeds is about, 15 things long. Well, I'm not going to go out and do all of the weeding in one day. Maybe I am. Let me actually step back. Maybe I am. Maybe that's your strategy. You're going to say, you know what? Friday's going to be weed pulling day. I'm going to just bang through my list on Friday and I'm going to get everything done. It is going to be the day that I focus on getting all my things done that are getting in the way of me having success. Maybe, right? It's for you, it makes more sense to pull one weed a day, right? So think about what's the strategy that you're going to have the most success with. Hi, Tenley, by the way, I see that you are on. It's great to see you. But yeah, so what's the strategy that's going to work for you? Are you more of a consistent action or a go all in and spend one day cleaning up the garden and then block one day every other week to pull weeds? And if you're not doing these things in your business, these are the things that all of a sudden get away from you, right? So expense reports was a great example of that. Actually weeding in a garden is a great example of that. Not managing a CRM. Emails, oh my goodness, right? Like think about your email list right now and or your email. Like if I go through and I have 51 unread messages, just cleaning out my email inbox, that's a huge weed to pull, because then when I go in and I'm actually trying to figure out what do I need to respond to, it's not clogged up with all of these weeds. I can see what I'm doing, right? CRMs are a huge weed pulling activity. They're not fun. Nobody likes to input data. Nobody likes to go in and clean it up. Shouldn't say nobody, very few people. But if you do it, it makes it so much easier to kind of keep an eye on watering the plants and getting the results from the energy that you've already put in. And that's what this is really about. It's about creating results from the work you've already put in. There's nothing worse than putting in a great deal of energy, time, thought, intention into something and then not seeing the fruits of it because you weren't doing the small things that needed to get done on the back end to help you be successful. And it's easy to really focus on those forward motion activities, right? Like okay, I'm going to go reach out to my customers. I'm going to create a new campaign to generate leads. I'm going to reach out to my old leads. I'm going to ask for referrals. I'm going to build this new offering and this new program. Yes, we need to be putting energy absolutely right now into forward moment. But now is also a really important time to step back and ask yourself, what weeds need to be pulled in your business. What are the things that you've been avoiding? What are the things that you've been putting off? And then actually take the time to do those things. And you will be surprised at the impact this has on your ability to be successful. It will free up so much mental capacity. You will see things with so much clarity. You'll actually be able to see what's in front of you so that you can take that forward progress with still intention and energy, but with more productivity and more efficiency. My goal, the reason I named my business Time to Profit, is that the number one thing, the most valuable asset any business owner has is their time. That time is a limited resource. It is truly only one of the only non-renewing resources. You can go out and earn more money. You cannot go out and earn more time. And so you want to be intentional about how you're spending your time. Sometimes when we're pulling weeds and we're doing these activities that feel very tedious and like they're not that important in terms of our long-term goals, what we're actually doing is making it so that when we walk out and we're seeing what happens in our business, we can see with more clarity, so that then the actions that we take, we don't have to take as many actions or spend as much time or spend as much energy to get the results, right? And so when you go out and you can actually see what's growing, what's not growing, and you're not distracted by all the weeds that are there or what needs to get done and what your priorities are, and it's not clogged up with all the stuff that has to get done but isn't getting done on a regular basis, you will actually have more time in your business and in your life to focus on the things that matter most. And ultimately, most people started a business because they had a passion for something. They wanted the freedom to create their own financial future, and they also wanted freedom over their time. And one way to gain more freedom over your time is to be intentional and mindful about spending time pulling those weeds in your business. So that is your homework for today, is to actually sit down and spend some time thinking about what are the weeds in your business? What are the things that you've been avoiding doing that are tedious, that ultimately are good for you for your business in terms of having your ducks in the row and having your right systems in place and your right processes in place and your right flows in place so that you can be successful. And then figure out what's the right strategy for you. Do you want to pull weeds on a weekly basis? Do you want to pull weeds every 2 weeks in a dedicated time block? Or do you want to be intentional about pulling 1 weed a day, right? For me, that's more of the strategy that works, is like, okay, if I can focus on one thing every day, like yesterday, it's like pay bills. Okay, that's my weed. It's done. Now I can really spend, the rest of the day focused on things I want to do in my business. That's partly because I love the work that I'm doing in my business and I don't want to spend a whole day not focused on the business. So right now I'm like, okay, let me focus on weeds for, 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, be done with that. And then I have all the rest of my day to focus on the things that light me up. So think about, that's the strategy that works for me. That doesn't have to be the strategy that works for you. There's a lot of value in time blocking and saying, okay, I'm going to just write down everything I need to do as it comes up. And then, Fridays are going to be my weed pulling day. Awesome. I totally support that. Really, how you do it is less important than the fact that you do it with intentionality and you do it with consistency, because it is one of those things when you're not doing it and then you are like, okay, I need to get caught up on things, and it feels overwhelming. And when we are in overwhelm, we do not want to take action. That is just human nature. And so stop getting overwhelmed by the small things but important things in your business that are tedious but need to get done in order to be successful, by taking consistent action on them. So that's your homework. Brainstorm those weeds and start taking action on them today. I will be live tomorrow right around 10 a.m., give or take. It is a beautiful day here in Bend, Oregon. It is supposed to be 70 degrees. The sun is shining, and so I wore my cabbie yellow shirt. One of the trends this season for spring is dress with a smile, or optimistic dressing, I think is what they call it. And so this is my optimistic dressing top, but it just feels congruent with today. and our topic of, right, pulling weeds and kind of thinking about our business from that standpoint. So anyways, that's just my little side note. But I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine, and let me know how I can support you in your business. If you have a specific question about how you can continue to grow your business in times of uncertainty and how you can create a path forward to not only just sustaining your business during this time, but growing your business, shoot me a message and I will address it on one of our Facebook Lives. We're going to be live every day between now and the end of the month, which is crazy. This month is flying by. So I will see you tomorrow right around 10 a.m. Have a great day.